Hey guys, tonight we're going somewhere far more recent than the Middle Ages, but in many ways just as harsh. We're stepping into the humid, suffocating jungles of Southeast Asia, right in the middle of the Vietnam War. Not as a general, not as a politician, not even as a regular soldier. Tonight, you've been dropped into the boots of a sniper. That means long stretches of silence, endless hours of waiting, and sudden bursts of violence that leave your ears ringing and your nerves frayed. Forget the movies and heroic one-liners. The reality is sweaty, itchy, and terrifying, and it grinds you down one day at a time. Before we begin, take a moment to settle in. Turn off the bright lights. Maybe let a fan hum in the background, and if you've got headphones, this is the time to use them. You'll want to feel the closeness of the jungle, the constant buzz of insects, the drip of water from leaves, and the quiet that never really feels safe. And as always, only subscribe if you actually enjoy what I do here. No pressure. Now take a deep breath, get comfortable, and picture yourself waking up in a place that doesn't feel like it ever sleeps. The year is somewhere in the late 1960s, and you're thousands of miles from home. You've just been assigned as a sniper in Vietnam. The good news, you've made it through the night. The bad news, the night never really ends here, and neither does the war. You open your eyes to the sound of the jungle, which isn't so much a sound as it is an overwhelming wall of noise. It's not quiet here. It never is. Even in the middle of the night, the forest is alive. Crickets chirp like an endless metronome. Frogs croak with the enthusiasm of a broken trumpet section. And unseen birds let out calls that don't sound like birds at all. Add to that the constant buzz of mosquitoes, and you realise there's no such thing as silence. It's more like the jungle itself is breathing around you, and you're just a guest inside its lungs. The air presses against your skin, heavy, thick, and sticky. It feels less like oxygen, and more like you're trying to inhale warm soup. Every breath comes with a taste of mud, sweat, and the faint metallic tang of the weapon you've kept by your side all night. Your body aches in ways you didn't know it could. You're not waking up from a deep, restful sleep. You're waking up from a series of uncomfortable naps stolen in 15-minute increments. Sleep here is like trying to doze off in the middle of a crowded subway car that happens to be on fire. The ground is either too soft or too hard, usually both, and your hammock, if you even bothered stringing it up, sags in the middle like it's trying to fold you in half. The fabric sticks to your back because you're soaked through with sweat, and the faint movement of something crawling across the canvas reminds you that the jungle doesn't care about your personal space. Ants, beetles, even the occasional spider the size of your palm, they all pay you a visit sooner or later. The heat never goes away. Even at night, when you'd expect a little relief, it clings to you like a second uniform. You're damp from head to toe, your clothes plastered against your skin. Sweat pools at the small of your back, beads down your neck, and soaks into your socks, which have been wet since the moment you set foot in Vietnam, and probably will never fully dry. Every movement is sticky, every shift uncomfortable. It doesn't matter if you strip down to your undershirt or keep the long sleeves on to try and keep the bugs off. Either way, you're cooking. You fall asleep sweaty, you wake up sweatier, and the cycle never ends. And then there are the mosquitoes. If you thought one buzzing mosquito in your bedroom at home was enough to ruin your night, imagine thousands of them forming a chorus around your ears. They bite through fabric, they bite through socks, and they bite through whatever sliver of sanity you're trying to hang on to. You've covered yourself in repellent so often that your skin feels like it's permanently coated in chemicals, but it barely makes a difference. They find the spots you miss, behind your ears, between your fingers, the back of your neck, and they feast. You wake up with welts across your arms, your legs, your face. You slap at them in your sleep, half dreaming, half fighting a war against insects that never retreat. The jungle floor beneath you isn't any kinder. If you're sleeping on the ground, you've got roots jabbing into your spine, rocks pressing into your hips, and mud seeping into your clothes. The ground never stays dry. Rain falls almost daily, sometimes for hours, sometimes in sheets so heavy you can't see more than a few feet in front of you. The water soaks everything, fills your boots, and turns the earth into a soggy trap that smells faintly of rot. Your gear is damp, your rifle is damp, and so is the pack you've been trying to keep dry under a flimsy poncho that gave up on its job days ago. When you shift, the mud sucks at your uniform, pulling at the fabric like it wants to claim you. And if you're lucky enough to have avoided the mud, then congratulations, you're probably lying on a nest of fire ants. Privacy doesn't exist out here. You're shoulder to shoulder with other guys, each one of them as tired, cranky and itchy as you are. Everyone smells. It's a cocktail of sweat, mildew, gun oil and cigarettes. Nobody comments on it because there's no alternative. Showers are rare luxuries, and even when you find a stream, dipping into it is more likely to give you an infection than leave you feeling refreshed. So you live in a cloud of human odour that clings to everything you own. Your blanket, if you even carry one, reeks of mildew. Your clothes are sour with days of wear. Your boots give off a smell that could probably qualify as chemical warfare on its own. You're 20 years old, maybe 21, but your body feels decades older. The humidity swells your joints, the damp makes your bones ache, and the constant carrying of your pack digs into your shoulders until the muscles burn. You can't stretch without pulling something, and you can't shift positions without something new hurting. You wake up feeling just as exhausted as when you closed your eyes. Only now you've added a stiff neck and a few new bug bites to your collection. And then comes the sound that really wakes you. The jungle doesn't just hum with insects and frogs. It cracks, it snaps, and sometimes it screams. Somewhere out there, a branch falls. Or was it just the weight of water on the leaves? Or was it something moving? Every sound has the potential to be something else. You can't see more than a few feet ahead in the undergrowth, so your imagination fills in the rest. A bird call might be just that, or it might be a signal. The crunch of leaves could be an animal, or it could be someone creeping through the brush, waiting for the right moment. Every pop, every rustle, every echo keeps you on edge, and so you wake up half paralysed, not with sleep, but with the tension of never being certain what's waiting for you. You roll onto your side and glance at your rifle. It never leaves your reach. You've slept with it, pressed against your chest, barrel angled down, like it's just another part of your body. The metal is cold, slick with condensation, and you wipe it down automatically. You can't let rust set in. The weapon is both your lifeline and your curse. Carrying it means you're never without weight, never without responsibility. Leaving it even for a moment means you're vulnerable, so you hold it close, like a twisted security blanket that could blow a hole through a tree trunk. There's no alarm clock here, the jungle decides when you wake up. Sometimes it's the shriek of a bird. Sometimes it's the buzz of insects too close to your ear. Sometimes it's the hand of another soldier nudging you awake for your watch shift. You don't wake rested. You wake alert because you have to. In a place where visibility drops to nothing and sound is unreliable, the only thing you have is awareness. So you blink away the sweat that's run into your eyes, shift your weight in the hammock, and force your stiff muscles to cooperate. Your stomach growls, but it's not breakfast that's on your mind yet. It's survival. Did you make it through the night without being bitten by something worse than a mosquito? Did you avoid trench foot by trying to keep your socks at least somewhat dry? Did the water dripping off the leaves miss your rifle's action? Or are you going to have to clean it for the 10th time this week? Did you dream last night? Or were the images that ran through your head just your mind's way of processing every shadow and sound that threatened you in the dark? You don't know. All you know is that the night is over, though in the jungle, it never really feels like it ends. As you sit up, you feel the weight of the gear around you. The straps dig into your shoulders, the rifle sling bites into your collarbone, and every movement makes noise. You've learned to make peace with the constant discomfort because you don't have a choice. You swat at another mosquito, brush an ant off your sleeve, and drag yourself upright. The day hasn't even started, but you're already sweating, already tired, already itching. That's life here. And whether you're ready or not, it's time to move again. You're not lying on a mattress. There's no box spring, no sheets, no pillow that remembers the shape of your head. Out here, what you call a bed is whatever manages to keep your body off the wet ground for a few hours without collapsing. Sometimes that means a hammock strung between two trees, the rope biting into the bark, while the fabric sags under your weight. Sometimes it means a poncho stretched across sticks, turning into a crude lean-to that feels like it could blow away with the next gust of wind. And sometimes, when you're too tired to care, it just means the dirt itself. A patch of mud softened by rain and covered with a thin layer of damp leaves. You don't sleep in comfort. You sleep in surrender. The hammock is supposed to be the better option. It keeps you off the jungle floor, away from the mud, the snakes, the endless parade of ants that march like armies through the undergrowth. But the hammock doesn't cradle you gently. It folds you in half, pressing your shoulders forward and arching your back until your muscles complain. You wake up with your neck twisted, your spine screaming, and your arms tingling from poor circulation. The nylon sticks to your skin like tape because it's wet, always wet. Sweat, rain, condensation, it doesn't matter. Out here, fabric never dries. The ropes creak every time you shift, and the slightest noise echoes louder than you want it to in the dark. You find yourself holding still, trapped between the need for comfort and the need for silence. If the hammock snaps, and sometimes it does, you crash straight into the mud below. The mud doesn't welcome you. It sucks at your uniform, stains it permanently, and swallows the little warmth you had managed to keep. Mud in Vietnam isn't just dirt with water mixed in. It's its own ecosystem. It clings, it smells, and it works its way into every seam of your gear. Once you lie in it, you're coated in a layer that doesn't wash off. You can wipe at it, you can scrape at it, but it stays. Eventually you stop trying. You just live in the mud, because fighting it is as pointless as fighting the humidity itself. The ground is worse, Hard where you wish it was soft. Soft where you wish it were firm. Roots jab into your hips. Rocks dig into your ribs. The insects crawling beneath the leaves find their way onto your skin, biting, stinging, or simply walking across you like you're just another piece of the landscape. You try to brush them off, but in the darkness, half asleep, half awake, you can't always tell what's real. Was that something crawling over your arm, or was it just the hair standing up because you heard a noise in the brush? Either way, you don't sleep deeply. You close your eyes, and you drift in shallow water, never daring to sink. Sleep in the jungle isn't like sleep back home. It doesn't wash over you, it stalks you. You catch fragments of it, broken pieces between watch shifts and the constant interruptions of noise. 15 minutes here, maybe half an hour there. Your body never enters the deep kind of rest it craves. Your muscles twitch from exhaustion. Your brain replays the sounds you've heard all day. Gunfire, helicopters, shouted orders. Even when they're not happening, you still hear them. You dream of being back home, but the dream always gets interrupted by the crack of a branch or the buzz of a mosquito. You wake up sweating, your heart pounding, rifle clutched tight against your chest. It takes a moment to realise there's no one shooting at you. Not this time. Sometimes you share a foxhole with another soldier. That's its own kind of misery. The two of you packed into a shallow hole dug into the ground, surrounded by sandbags that reek of mildew. There's barely room to shift without bumping into each other. You sleep back to back, or knee to knee, or however you can fit, and hope the rain doesn't fill the hole faster than you can bail it out. The walls cave in after enough storms, and you're forced to dig again, cursing under your breath while mud slides under your fingernails and into your boots. Privacy doesn't exist here. Personal space doesn't exist here. You learn to ignore the sounds of another man's breathing inches from your face because you don't have a choice. And yet, even in the worst spots, you cling to whatever ritual you can manage. You take off your boots, even if it's only for an hour, because if you don't, trenchfoot will eat your skin raw. You hang your socks nearby, hoping they'll dry, knowing they won't. You roll your poncho tightly around your gear, so at least something stays dry. You wrap your rifle with a rag, because if it fails you when you need it most, there's no second chance. These little gestures are all you have, the closest thing to tucking yourself in for the night. The sounds around you make it worse. The jungle never quiets, and every rustle feels like it has teeth. You listen to frogs croaking, crickets chirping, leaves shifting. You tell yourself it's just animals, just the wind, just the endless noise of the forest. But deep down, you know it might not be. You know there could be someone out there, waiting, listening, just as still as you are. You close your eyes and try to sleep anyway, because exhaustion is stronger than fear. You let your body shut down for a few minutes, even though your brain refuses to let go completely. It's a strange kind of limbo. You're never fully awake, never fully asleep, just floating in between, waiting for the next day to drag you forward. When the rain starts, it doesn't politely tap on the leaves. It hammers, hard and sudden, like 1,000 fists pounding at once. Water pours through the canopy in sheets, drenching you instantly, flooding the ground, filling your hammock until you're lying in a puddle suspended between two trees. Lightning flashes, thunder follows, and the jungle lights up for a second before plunging back into darkness. You don't bother trying to stay dry. You can't. You curl into yourself, wrap your arms around your rifle, and hope the storm doesn't bring more than just rain. You wake up sore, damp, and covered in new bites. Your muscles stiff, your back aching, your gear heavier from all the water it's absorbed. But you don't get to stretch, yawn, and hit the snooze button. You drag yourself up because there's no other option. Sleep in Vietnam isn't about rest. It's about survival. It's about closing your eyes just long enough to keep moving tomorrow. You wake before you want to. Not because you're rested, not because the night was kind, but because the jungle decides it's morning. The first light doesn't arrive gently. It filters through layers of thick canopy, turning the world from pitch black to a dim green haze, as if you've woken inside a bottle. The air doesn't feel cooler at dawn. If anything, it's heavier, sticking to your lungs like a damp rag. You roll over in your hammock, every joint stiff, every muscle sore, and realise the day is beginning whether you like it or not. The first thing you notice is sweat. It's already pouring down your back, sliding along your ribs, pooling in the waistband of your pants. You didn't move yet. You didn't work yet. You just woke up. And your body feels like it's been labouring for hours. Your uniform, still damp from yesterday's rain, clings to your skin. You peel it off the way you'd peel a wet towel from a swimming pool deck, only to replace it with another layer that's just as sticky. There's no fresh set of clothes waiting for you. Laundry doesn't exist out here. You wear the same uniform until it rots, until the seams split, until the fabric gives way under constant punishment. The smell doesn't bother anyone anymore, because everyone smells the same. It's not hygiene that separates you from the guy next to you. It's the shape of your gear and the sound of your voice. You swat at mosquitoes before you even sit up. They've been feeding on you all night, fattening themselves on whatever blood you had left after yesterday's cuts and scrapes. Your arms are dotted with raised welts, itchy and burning, and the more you scratch them, the worse they get. A film of insect repellent coats your skin, the smell sharp, chemical, almost sour. You've reapplied it so many times you don't even smell yourself anymore, just that constant cloud of chemical haze. It doesn't really stop the mosquitoes. It just slows them down. They'll always find a way. Nature calls, and there's nothing polite about it. Privacy doesn't exist here. You move off a few steps from the group, rifle in hand, and do what you have to do in the mud, hoping no one's watching. Hoping, more importantly, that no one else is watching from out there in the trees. You swat at mosquitoes, and hope you don't tip over in the muck. You don't have toilet paper, not unless you've saved some tissue from a ration pack. You use leaves when you have to, and sometimes you use nothing at all. The smell is immediate, the flies are faster, and you finish quickly because standing around is dangerous. Everyone pretends not to notice what everyone else is doing. That's how you keep going. Then comes breakfast, if you can call it that. You dig through your pack and pull out a tin of sea rations, the army's gift to your digestive tract. The cans are dented, greasy, and stamped with labels that sound more like warnings than meals. Ham and lima beans. Beef slices with gravy. Meatballs. You don't trust any of them. You pry one open with your knife, the metal scraping, the smell stale and faintly metallic. The food inside doesn't look like food. It looks like something scraped from the bottom of a grease trap. You shovel it in anyway because you don't have a choice. Hunger is worse than taste. If you're lucky, you get peanut butter or cheese spread in a small can. Thick, salty, almost unrecognisable as dairy, but it coats your mouth and makes the dry crackers go down a little easier. Those crackers are hard enough to chip a tooth. They taste like cardboard soaked in dust, but you chew them anyway, washing them down with lukewarm water from your canteen. The water tastes like metal, chlorine, and whatever purification tablets were dissolved in it. It's better than the streams, but not by much. Coffee is the closest thing to comfort you get. Powder in a little packet, mixed with water that may or may not have been boiled long enough. It's bitter, acidic, and strong enough to scrape the back of your throat raw, but it wakes you up. Some guys dump in extra sugar, just to pretend it's something more than hot mud. Others chase it with a cigarette, letting the smoke mix with the humidity until it feels like you're breathing through a wet rag. Breakfast isn't enjoyable. It's mechanical. Open the can, swallow the contents. Don't think about it. You're never alone during this routine. You sit with the others, hunched over, eating in silence. Conversations are low, whispers really, because voices carry farther than you want them to. Everyone stares at their food, at the ground, at nothing. There's no banter, no jokes, no small talk. You eat quickly because time is short and noise is dangerous. The jungle around you hums louder than your words ever could. When you're done, you pack everything back up. The cans get buried or carried, depending on the situation. You can't leave them lying around. They'll smell, they'll attract insects, or worse, they'll give away your position. Even your trash has to be managed like a weapon. You wipe your knife on your pants, sling your rifle over your shoulder, and check your gear. Everything has to be ready. You don't know when you'll move out, but you know it won't be long. The morning routine is less about preparing for the day and more about reminding yourself you're still alive. You survived the night. You woke up, you ate, you drank, and now you're back on your feet. Your body is sore, your skin itches, your stomach churns from canned meat, but you're moving. And in this place, moving is the only thing that matters. You don't wake up thinking about hygiene. You wake up thinking about survival. But sooner or later, it hits you. You stink. Everyone does. The sweat doesn't stop. The mud never leaves. And your skin feels like it's wearing its own damp overcoat. Showers are a luxury, something you remember from home, but here they might as well be fiction. There's no soap, no tiles, no running water. The only water you've got is whatever falls from the sky or runs through the streams, and neither of those is safe. When it rains, some guys strip down and let the downpour do the work. It's not cleansing, not really. The water pounds your shoulders, runs down your back, soaks your hair until it feels like a mop. For a moment, you feel like you're washing away the sweat and grime, but the relief is temporary. The rain is dirty. It drags leaves, mud, and insect droppings down with it. By the time you've lathered up with whatever you manage to scrounge, sometimes just a rag, sometimes nothing, you're standing in a puddle of brown water that smells faintly of decay. You towel off with your hands, pull your wet uniform back on, and within minutes you're sweaty again. That's as good as it gets. Streams are worse. They look clean, sparkling even, cutting through the jungle like veins of glass. Step into one though, and you're taking your life in your hands. Parasites, bacteria, even leeches wait in that water. Leeches especially, they don't announce themselves. You feel nothing as they attach, nothing as they swell with your blood. It's only later, when you glance down, that you notice a black slug hanging off your skin, fat and obscene. You pull it off, but it leaves a wound that keeps bleeding. A steady trickle that stains your socks or runs down your ankle. You smear mud on it, or you just ignore it, because there's no medicine for something as small as this. The jungle always finds new ways to mark you. Your feet take the worst of it. They're trapped inside boots that never dry, soaked day after day, until the skin softens and splits. Trench foot, they call it. It starts as itching, then swelling, then the skin peels away in grey, rotten strips. You try to prevent it by changing socks, but dry socks are rare. You carry pairs tucked into your pack, hoping they'll air out overnight, but the humidity doesn't allow it. Every morning, you put on socks that are just as damp as when you took them off. You rub your feet raw with a rag, hoping friction will do what air can't. The boots themselves reek of mildew and rot. Once the leather gets wet, it never recovers. You live with the smell. Everyone does. Your hands are just as bad. Cuts don't heal here. Every scrape, every blister, every nick from a knife or a branch turns red and swollen. The damp air feeds the infection, and before long, you've got pus oozing from the wound. Bandages are scarce, and even when you use one, it soaks through with sweat in minutes. You wash your hands in the same water you're warned not to drink, and you wonder if you're making it worse. The truth is, you probably are. But what else can you do? Shaving is technically required, but in practice, it's a chore most guys give up on. Razors dull quickly, soap runs out, and the humidity makes every nick bleed more than it should. You end up with patchy beards, streaks of stubble, and skin that looks raw from half-finished attempts. The officers might yell about appearance, but out here, survival trumps grooming. Hair grows where it grows. Dirt collects where it collects. You stop caring after a while. Then there's your mouth. You carry a toothbrush maybe. You use it when you can, rinsing with canteen water that tastes like metal and chlorine. Toothpaste is a small tube you squeeze sparingly, saving every last drop. Some guys don't bother. They chew gum from the ration packs or just swish water around and call it good. Your teeth feel coated, gritty, as if the jungle itself is settling into your gums. Breath smells don't matter when everyone reeks of cigarettes, rations and sweat. The bugs don't help. Flies swarm your face the moment you stop moving. Ants crawl into your gear, into your clothes, even into your food. Mosquitoes leave welts that swell and itch until you scratch them raw. The scratching opens wounds, the wounds get infected, and the cycle continues. At night, you curl into your hammock, skin burning from bites, feet throbbing, hands stinging, and you wonder how much of you is still yours and how much belongs to the jungle now. Bathing, cleaning, grooming, they don't exist here in the way you knew them. Hygiene isn't about being clean, it's about being less miserable than you could be. You wipe yourself down with a rag, you scrape mud off your legs, you pull leeches from your skin, and you call it a day. You tell yourself you'll really wash when you get back to base, but base is days away, maybe weeks, and by then you'll have new infections, new sores, new scars. The dirt never leaves you. It just layers itself until you can't tell where your body ends and the jungle begins. You don't sit at a table when it's time for breakfast. You don't pull out plates, or forks, or cups. Breakfast in the jungle doesn't have the dignity of a meal. It's fuel, nothing more. And even then, it's the kind of fuel that tastes like it was designed in a laboratory to test the limits of human tolerance. You reach into your pack, fingers brushing against damp cloth and metal, until you find the familiar tin. The can is dented, the label smudged, but you already know what's inside. You've seen the same contents a dozen times before. The army calls them sea rations. The guys just call them punishment. They come in small boxes stuffed with cans of meat, bread, crackers, and the occasional sweet if you're lucky. Each can is sealed tight, but when you pry it open with your knife, the smell that hits you is never appetizing. It's metallic, greasy, and stale all at once. You tell yourself it's food, but it doesn't feel like food. It feels like something that was once food, trapped inside metal for so long it forgot what it was supposed to be. The choices aren't good. Ham and lima beans, beef slices with gravy, meatballs and sauce. The names sound fine, but the reality is grey lumps swimming in oily liquid, meat so processed it doesn't resemble meat anymore. Ham and lima beans, in particular, are infamous. Most guys won't touch them unless they're starving. The beans are mushy, the ham is chewy, and the whole thing tastes like it was soaked in despair. If you get stuck with that can, you trade it away if you can. If not, you choke it down, one reluctant bite at a time, wishing for anything else. Sometimes you get lucky. There might be a can of peanut butter, thick and salty, almost impossible to spread, but edible when you scoop it with a spoon or your finger. Or there's cheese spread, which comes in a tin and tastes vaguely like cheese, but more like rubber. It's not good, but when you smear it on the dry crackers, it makes them possible to chew. Those crackers are legendary for their density. They don't snap, they resist. You bite down and wonder if your teeth are strong enough to survive. They taste like nothing, just dust and starch. But you chew anyway, because hunger doesn't give you a choice. Alongside the cans, there are accessories. Little packets with sugar, salt, sometimes a piece of candy, sometimes chewing gum, and always cigarettes. You tear open the packet, shake out the contents, and hope you got something decent. A piece of chocolate is gold out here, even if it's chalky and half melted. Gum is more about passing the time than cleaning your teeth, but it gives your mouth something to do besides taste canned grease. The cigarettes, though, they're the real prize. Even if you don't smoke, you keep them. They're currency, trade, and a way to calm nerves when nothing else will. Then there's the coffee. Instant, bitter, and sharp enough to wake you even when you haven't truly slept. The packet is just a small envelope of brown powder. You tear it open, dump it into your canteen cup, and add water. Sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's cold. Most of the time, it's just lukewarm, because boiling water out here is a chore. The coffee doesn't dissolve completely. It leaves gritty streaks at the bottom of the cup. You sip it anyway, because caffeine is the closest thing to comfort the jungle offers. The taste is awful, but it jolts your body awake. Some guys add sugar, dumping the whole packet in just to mask the bitterness. Others drink it black, swallowing it like medicine, because that's what it really is. Medicine for exhaustion. Breakfast isn't shared like a family meal. It's quiet, quick, mechanical. Everyone sits in a loose circle, packs at their sides, weapons never more than an arm's length away. You eat from the can, bent over, spoon scraping metal. The sounds are small, cans opening, crackers snapping, coffee sloshing. Conversation is rare. Nobody talks much in the morning. You're too tired, too focused on eating before it's time to move. The jungle hums louder than you do, filling the silence with its endless background noise. The food doesn't sit well. It's heavy, greasy, and sometimes spoiled. You swallow it anyway, Your stomach churns, grumbles, and makes you regret every bite, but hunger wins. If you're unlucky, the rations have been sitting in storage for years. Some cans are so old they're stamped from the Korean War. Leftovers that taste like they were forgotten in a warehouse until someone remembered they existed. You eat them because you have to, because there's nothing else. Fresh food is a memory. The jungle offers fruit sometimes, but you don't trust it. Better to stick with canned meat than risk a stomach bug that could take you out faster than a bullet. Sometimes, after choking down the meat and crackers, you light a cigarette. The smoke drifts upward, mixing with the humidity, curling around the leaves. It doesn't taste good, not really, but it calms your nerves. It gives your hand something to do. For a moment, you feel almost normal. Then the cigarette burns out, the cans are empty, and the day pulls you forward again. Breakfast doesn't energize you. It doesn't make you feel ready. It just fills the hole long enough to keep you walking, long enough to shoulder your pack, pick up your rifle, and disappear back into the green wall of the jungle. You don't finish breakfast thinking about how good it was. You finish it wondering how many more mornings you'll be stuck with the same grey cans, the same bitter coffee, the same taste of metal on your tongue. You don't get dressed in the morning like you used to back home. There's no closet, no dresser, no rotation of clean outfits waiting for you. Out here, you wear the same thing day after day until it falls apart on your body. The uniform is standard issue, but in the jungle, it feels like punishment disguised as clothing. It isn't soft, it isn't light, and it never feels dry. You wake up already damp, and by the time you pull on your gear, you're carrying half the jungle with you in your fabric. The fatigue uniform is meant for hot, wet weather. It's made from cotton poplin, a material that breathes just enough to keep you from suffocating, but not enough to keep you from sweating. The fabric starts the day sticky and ends the day heavier than it should be, soaked in sweat, rain, and mud. Every crease is stiff with salt from your body. The collar rubs your neck raw, the sleeves cling to your arms, and the cuffs trap moisture against your wrists until the skin beneath them softens and splits. There's no relief, no comfort, just the constant reminder that the jungle is winning. Camouflage is supposed to give you an edge. The greens and browns blend with the trees and leaves, turning you into part of the background. In theory, it's protection. In practice, it's just more cloth to soak up the environment. The colours fade quickly under the relentless sun, turning your uniform into a washed-out patchwork that smells like mildew and gun oil. You smear mud across your face, rub it into the fabric, and tell yourself you're harder to see now. But deep down, you know the mosquitoes don't care about camouflage. Neither does the heat. Neither do the leeches crawling up your legs. The boots are their own form of torture. Jungle boots, black leather with canvas uppers, designed with drainage holes to let water out. They do their job, but they also let everything else in. Mud seeps through, insects crawl through, and the humidity ensures they never ever dry. You take them off at night, hoping the air will do the work, but in the morning they're still damp, still heavy, still reeking of rot. You slide your feet back in anyway, toes curling against wet socks, and brace yourself for the day ahead. The blisters come quickly, the skin softening, peeling, sometimes bleeding. Trenchfoot lurks at every step, eating at you if you're careless. You change socks when you can, but dry socks don't exist here. They're always damp, just damp in different degrees. The weight of your gear drags you down from the moment you strap it on. Your web gear wraps around your torso, pouches stuffed with magazines, grenades, a canteen or two. The straps dig into your shoulders, rubbing grooves into your skin that never heal because they're rubbed raw again every day. Your pack hangs heavy on your back, loaded with rations, ammo, maybe a poncho liner if you're lucky. It feels like carrying another person everywhere you go. Every step sinks you deeper into the mud. Every climb through tangled vines pulls the straps tighter, cutting off circulation, forcing your body to adapt to constant strain. Your rifle is the one piece of gear you never let go of. It's not just a weapon, it's an appendage. You carry it slung across your chest or cradled in your arms, the metal always slick with condensation. You wipe it down again and again, fighting rust, fighting the jungle itself. Because if it fails you, nothing else matters. The weight of it digs into your shoulder, your hands ache from gripping it, and still you hold it tighter. Sleeping, eating, moving, doesn't matter. The rifle never leaves your side. There's no such thing as clean clothing here. Your uniform smells like old sweat, like the chemicals of insect repellent, like mildew that's set into the fibres. You can scrub it in a stream, but that just makes it wetter, and within an hour it smells the same again. The seams fray, the knees rip, the elbows thin out until your skin is exposed to the elements. You patch what you can with tape or thread, but eventually the jungle decides when your uniform is done. It doesn't matter how tough the fabric is. Nothing beats humidity and constant wear. You're not dressed for comfort. You're dressed for endurance. Everything you wear rubs, scratches, clings and weighs you down. The boots blister your feet. The uniform chafes your thighs. The straps of your gear cut into your shoulders. By midday, your body feels like it's been sanded down by fabric, leather and webbing. You itch constantly. You ache constantly. The sweat never leaves you. The jungle takes your body piece by piece, and your uniform makes sure you feel every moment of it. And yet, you keep wearing it, because without it, you'd be worse off. The boots may rot your feet, but they also keep the worst of the ground at bay. The uniform may cling to you like a parasite, but it keeps the sun and the mosquitoes off your bare skin. The gear may weigh you down until your spine feels like it's cracking, but it carries the only things keeping you alive. You can't strip any of it away. You can't shed it like a second skin. You just adjust the straps, tug at the cuffs and keep walking, one heavy damp step after another. You don't pick your weapon like someone picks out a shirt. You don't browse options, weigh comfort, or think about style. Out here, the rifle isn't an accessory. It isn't even just a tool. It's the single thing that decides whether you see the end of the day or not. As a sniper, the rifle defines you. It isn't handed to you casually either. You train with it, you memorize it, you sleep with it. The rifle becomes your shadow, your burden, and the only reliable companion you've got in a place where trust is as rare as fresh food. The first thing you notice is the weight. It's not crushing, not like the pack on your shoulders, but it's constant. You never put it down. You sling it across your chest when you move, cradle it when you rest, and keep it within reach when you sleep. Even when your arms ache, even when your back screams from the straps digging into it, you hold on to the rifle like it's fused to your body. Because if you let it out of reach for even a moment, the jungle can take that opportunity and you don't get second chances. The sniper's weapon in Vietnam was usually the M40, a bolt-action rifle, heavy and simple. Some guys carried the Winchester Model 70 before that, customised with scopes and modifications, but the idea was always the same. Precision over firepower. One shot where it matters, not a spray of bullets hoping something lands. You learn every detail of your rifle. The length, the balance, the way the stock feels against your shoulder. You know how far you can push it, how the scope catches the light, how humidity creeps into the action and threatens to jam it at the worst moment. You clean it obsessively, wipe the metal, oil the parts, check the scope again and again. Because out here, rust doesn't take weeks, it takes hours. Moisture seeps into everything, and the only thing between you and failure is constant care. The scope changes the way you see the world. You don't just glance across the jungle anymore. You study it through a glass eye that magnifies every leaf, every shadow, every movement. It makes the jungle feel closer and farther away at the same time. A single branch shifting can look like a man moving. A flash of light might be the sun on water, or it might be a rifle barrel reflecting just enough to give someone away. Your eye aches from staring through the lens for hours, muscles twitching, vision blurring, but you don't stop. The scope is the difference between being predator and prey, and you're reminded of that every time you put it to your eye. There's comfort in the rifle, in its predictability. When everything else feels like chaos, when the jungle hums with unseen enemies, when the weather turns without warning, when your body betrays you with exhaustion, the rifle remains the same. The bolt slides the way it's supposed to. The trigger pulls the way it should. The recoil kicks into your shoulder with the same steady push every time. It doesn't care about your mood, your fear, your fatigue. It performs. But that same comfort is also pressure. Because if you miss, if you fumble, if your hands shake at the wrong second, you don't just fail yourself. You fail the man beside you. You fail the patrol relying on you to cover them. Out here, one mistake can mean an ambush. And you know you won't forgive yourself if that happens. The rifle isn't just a weapon. It's a responsibility. You're trusted with it because you can stay still when others can't. You can wait when others get restless. You can put a single bullet where it needs to go while others fire wildly into the brush. But that trust comes at a cost. The jungle is loud, alive, chaotic. The rifle forces you to ignore all of that and focus. To filter out the frogs, the insects, the rustling leaves, the constant paranoia, and just see what needs to be seen. It demands calm in a place where calm doesn't exist. You carry more than just the sniper rifle, of course. A sidearm rides in its holster, usually a .45 pistol, heavy and blunt, meant for close encounters you hope never happen. Some snipers carried an M16 too, because a bolt-action rifle doesn't help much when you're surprised at 20 feet. But those are backups, last resorts. The rifle is what defines you. It's what you're judged by. It's what you're remembered for. The weight of it seeps into your mind as much as your body. You dream about it. You wake up checking for it before you check for your own boots. You feel phantom pressure against your shoulder even when it's not there. The rifle becomes a piece of you that you can't remove. Out here, you might lose friends, you might lose sleep, you might lose parts of yourself to fear or exhaustion, but you never lose the rifle. If you do, the war ends for you right there. You don't polish it like a parade weapon. You don't admire it like a collector. You treat it the way a drowning man treats a life raft. Something you cling to. Something you don't let slip away. Something you trust even when you hate it for the weight it adds to your already broken body. It's not glamorous. It's not cinematic. It's just survival, carved into wood and steel, heavy in your hands, always pulling you forward. When it's time to move, you don't just stand up, sling your pack and start walking. Moving in the jungle isn't that simple. Every step has to be deliberate, every sound measured, every motion thought through before you make it. The order comes down in a whisper, or maybe just a gesture, and you know it's time to pick yourself up from whatever patch of damp ground you have been trying to call home. The sun isn't high yet, but the air is already heavy, thick enough to cling to your throat. Sweat is rolling before you even take your first step. You rise slowly, testing the weight of your gear again. The straps dig into your shoulders. The rifle pulls against your chest. The pack shifts and drags you backward. Everything feels heavier in the morning, as if the night added a few pounds just to test you. You flex your hands around the rifle stock, check the safety, glance at the man ahead of you. He doesn't look back, but you can see the same stiffness in his movements, the same cautious rhythm. You fall into place, one body in a chain that snakes through the jungle. The rule is simple, stay quiet, but the jungle makes that impossible. The ground is soft and wet, every step sinking into mud that sucks at your boots. The squelch of leather pulling free is loud in your ears, even if no one else reacts. Leaves brush your sleeves, vines drag against your pack, branches snap under careless weight. You wince at every sound, convinced it carries farther than it really does. But it doesn't matter how careful you are. The jungle is alive, and it betrays you constantly. Birds scream overhead. Unseen animals crash through the brush. Insects hum in clouds around your face. Silence isn't real here. The best you can do is add as little to the noise as possible. You move in a line, single file, each man a few feet behind the other. The point man leads, machete in hand, slicing through vines that dangle like ropes from the canopy. The cuts are quick, efficient, but even that small sound echoes like a warning bell. You try not to think about who else might be listening. The line moves steadily, never fast, never careless. You can't afford to trip, can't afford to lose your footing. Every fall, every stumble is a noise, a delay, a chance to be caught off guard. Your eyes scan constantly, left to right, up and down. The jungle isn't just in front of you. It's above, where branches tangle and hide movement. It's to the sides, where shadows shift with every gust of wind. It's behind, where the trail you just cut could lead someone else straight to you. You don't just look for shapes of men. You look for shapes that don't belong. A straight line in a world of curves. A patch of green that's too uniform. A hole in the brush where there shouldn't be one. The jungle camouflages everyone, and that includes whoever might be out there waiting. Your body adjusts to the rhythm of movement. Step, pause, listen. Step, pause, listen. You crouch when the man in front crouches, freeze when he freezes, move only when it's safe. Sometimes the pauses stretch into minutes. You squat in the mud, heart hammering, mosquito bites itching, sweat stinging your eyes, waiting for a sound you can't even be sure you heard. Then the line moves again, as if nothing happened, and you fall back into the rhythm. The weight of your gear makes every step a fight. The mud grabs at your boots, The vines pull at your legs, the pack drags you down. Your shoulders ache from the straps, your lower back throbs, your hands are slick with sweat around the rifle. You shift the sling, adjust the pack, wipe your palms on your pants. But nothing makes it better. The discomfort is constant. You learn to live with it because you have no choice. You try not to think about the fact that someone might be watching you. The jungle feels like it has eyes. Every rustle could be an animal, or it could be someone hidden, waiting. You know the Viet Cong are masters of the terrain, that they move through it like smoke, silent, invisible. You wonder if you've already passed by someone lying in wait, if they're watching you now, letting you pass, waiting for a better moment. That thought never leaves your mind, no matter how many steps you take. Sometimes the line stops completely. Everyone crouches low, rifles ready, eyes scanning. The silence stretches out, filled only by the sounds of the jungle. You wait, sweat dripping, muscles burning from holding still. Minutes feel like hours, then just as suddenly the signal comes and you're moving again. No explanation, no discussion. You don't need one. You just keep moving because stopping isn't an option. The heat builds as the sun rises higher. The air feels thicker. The sweat pours faster, and your clothes cling harder. Your boots squish with every step, socks soak through, toes blistering. The air smells like wet earth, rotting plants, gun oil, and the faint tang of your own body. You taste salt when you lick your lips. Taste metal when you sip from your canteen. The water is warm, almost hot, but you drink anyway. Thirst is worse than bad taste. Hours pass without a word spoken. You lose track of time, measuring the day only by the number of times you stumble, or the weight of sweat dripping into your eyes. Your world shrinks to the man in front of you, the path under your boots, the rifle in your hands. The jungle closes in around you, pressing from all sides, endless, suffocating. Every step feels the same, but you know each one could be your last if you're not careful. Setting out isn't about reaching a destination. It's about surviving the act of movement itself. Every noise you make, every step you take, is a gamble. The jungle is loud, but it hides danger well. You move quietly, but never quietly enough. And as the line snakes deeper into the green maze, you know that the only certainty is that the jungle hears everything. The first thing you learn in Vietnam is that the heat isn't just heat. It's an environment, a condition, a constant enemy that never takes a break. You step out of whatever shelter you had during the night, and it hits you immediately, even though the sun isn't fully up. The air presses down on you, thick, sticky, more like a liquid than a gas. You don't breathe it so much as swallow it. Every inhale feels heavy, every exhale shallow. You're already sweating, already damp, already sticky, and the day hasn't even started. The sweat doesn't roll off like it does back home. Here, it coats you, clings to you, soaks into your uniform until the fabric feels like it's glued to your skin. Your helmet traps it against your forehead, beads forming and dripping down into your eyes. You wipe them away with the back of your hand, only for more to form seconds later. Your hands are slick on the rifle stock, your socks squish in your boots, and your body feels like it's been dipped in warm oil. No matter how much you wipe, how much you shake your head, the sweat just keeps coming. The sun burns without mercy when the clouds break. The canopy offers some cover, but where it thins, the light blasts down like a spotlight. Your neck reddens, your arms sting, and the back of your hands bake even through the thin film of grime and insect repellent. Sunburn here doesn't come from lounging on a beach. It comes from standing still too long, waiting in the open while the sun brands you through the humidity. You smear whatever cream you've got, if you've got any, but it rubs off with sweat, and you're left cooking again within the hour. Then the monsoons arrive. The heat doesn't go away when the rain comes. It just changes. The sky opens up, dumping water in sheets so heavy you can't see 5 feet in front of you. It doesn't cool you down. It soaks you, fills your boots, turns the ground into sucking mud that clings with every step. You march anyway, water pouring off your helmet, streaming down your face, running into your eyes, your ears, your mouth. Your pack absorbs it, doubling in weight. Straps digging deeper into your shoulders. Your rifle is slick with moisture. Your fingers pruned from hours of constant soaking. You wipe it down when you can, but the rain keeps coming. Everything you own, everything you wear, everything you carry is wet. And then, just as suddenly, the rain stops. The sun comes back out, blazing, and now the world turns into a steam bath. The water trapped in the ground rises as mist, curling around your legs, fogging your vision. The air feels hotter than before, like you're walking through a boiling pot. Your skin prickles, your head pounds, and you feel lightheaded, like you might collapse. The ground squelches underfoot, every step a reminder that there's no dry place left. You stink of wet fabric, wet leather, wet everything, and when night falls, none of it dries. The heat lingers even after the sun sets, keeping you sweating in your hammock until the next dawn. The worst part is the sickness that comes with the heat. Jungle fever, they call it. Malaria, dengue, heat exhaustion. It doesn't matter the name. It starts with weakness, the kind that makes your legs feel hollow, your arms like dead weight. Then comes the pounding headache, the dizziness, the stomach twisting until you can't keep food down. You shiver in the middle of the sweltering heat, wrapped in sweat, teeth chattering even though the air feels like an oven. The medics hand out pills, chalky little tablets meant to hold off the worst, but they don't always work. Sometimes you're just stuck, curled up in the mud, your body racked with fever, while the jungle closes in around you. You don't fight the heat, you endure it. You drink from your canteen, water warm and metallic, gulping it down even though it doesn't refresh you. You pace yourself, move slower than you want to, breathe carefully to keep from collapsing. You strip off your helmet when you can, wipe your face with a rag, wring out your socks, then keep going. You learn tricks from the men who've been here longer. Rest in the shade whenever it appears. Loosen your gear when the march drags on. Soak your shirt in water and hope the evaporation cools you for a few minutes. None of it really works. The heat always wins. It saps more than your strength. It drains your patience, your focus, your will to keep going. Small things that wouldn't bother you back home become unbearable. The buzzing of a fly, the itch of a mosquito bite, the pinch of your boots on your blistered toes. All of it magnifies under the heat until you're clenching your teeth just to stay silent. You watch the men around you, their faces set, jaws locked, eyes glazed. Everyone's fighting the same battle, sweating, stumbling, blinking away dizziness. No one talks about it, but everyone feels it. The jungle doesn't cool down at night. You lie in your hammock, shirt sticking to your chest, hair plastered to your forehead, skin crawling with sweat. The air feels close, suffocating, like you're trapped under a heavy blanket you can't push off. You shift, toss. Try to find a position that doesn't leave you drenched, but there isn't one. Sleep doesn't come easy when the air itself feels like it's trying to smother you. And when you do drift off, you wake up drenched again, body slick, uniform damp, rifle coated in condensation. The cycle starts all over. The heat isn't just background. It's a constant presence, pressing against you, shaping everything you do. You move slower, you eat less, you drink more, you think less clearly. It wears you down piece by piece, day after day, until you realise you're not just fighting an enemy you can't see. You're fighting the air itself, and no matter how many battles you win, the heat is always waiting for you tomorrow. You don't get to choose when it's your turn to watch. It's assigned, passed down like an order that feels more like a sentence. The others might try to steal a few minutes of broken sleep in their hammocks or on the ground, but when it's your shift, you stay awake. You don't just stay awake, you stay still. And stillness is harder than it sounds in a place where every part of your body is itching, sweating, or aching. You settle in with your rifle cradled across your lap, scope capped, safety on, but ready. Your eyes scan the green wall in front of you, then shift left, then right, then up. Always up. The jungle has layers, and each one hides something different. At night, it's black on black. The faintest shapes just outlines against the dark. In the day, it's shifting shades of green, so dense that even a shadow looks solid. You look for movement, but movement is everywhere. Leaves sway, branches bend, insects flit in and out. You have to train yourself to see what doesn't belong. Angles, straight lines, breaks in the rhythm of nature. A man's shoulder where only branches should be. A flicker of metal where there shouldn't be light. The problem is, the jungle is better at camouflage than any uniform. The silence isn't silent. The jungle hums constantly. Crickets chirp, frogs call, birds screech. The longer you sit, the louder it gets, as if the noise builds itself into a wall that presses against your ears. At first, it's maddening. You try to focus, to listen through it, but every sound feels like it could be something. A rustle in the leaves might be an animal. It might also be a man moving slowly, carefully, deliberately. You don't get to know. You just keep listening, forcing your brain to sort through 1,000 layers of noise, waiting for the one sound that means danger. Stillness is its own enemy. Your body hates it. Mosquitoes land on your neck, your hands, your ears. You want to swat them away, but you can't risk the movement. Ants crawl across your boots, onto your legs, biting as they go. Sweat drips into your eyes, stings, but you don't move to wipe it. Your muscles start to twitch. Your back screams from the position you've been holding. Your legs go numb. You shift just enough to keep the blood flowing, then freeze again, eyes scanning. Minutes stretch into hours. The jungle doesn't change. You sit there, a stone among trees, pretending you're invisible, pretending you belong. Your mind starts to wander. It can't help it. You think about home, about food, about anything but the ache in your body. Then you drag yourself back, force yourself to focus. Because drifting too far means missing the one sound, the one flicker of movement that could decide everything. Fatigue claws at you, pulls at your eyelids, makes your head heavy. You shake it off, shift your rifle, blink hard, stare at the same patch of green for too long. The boredom mixes with fear, until you can't tell which is worse. Sometimes hours pass and nothing happens. No movement, no sound, the endless jungle. When your shift ends, you almost doubt whether you were ever needed at all. Other times, the wait ends in a heartbeat, the crack of a twig, the blur of a shadow, the sudden burst of gunfire. 1 second you're still, the next you're firing, heart racing, blood pounding, body snapping into motion like a spring that's been wound too tight. Then it's over just as fast, silence returning, louder than before. You sit again, trying to slow your breathing, trying to melt back into stillness, knowing it could happen again any second. You learn that watch isn't about catching the enemy every time. It's about being there, eyes open, body ready, even if nothing comes. It's about trading your comfort, your sleep, for the chance to keep everyone else alive. It's a burden, thankless, exhausting, but it's necessary. Because the one time no one's watching is the one time the jungle will swallow you whole. You don't blend into the jungle just by putting on a uniform. The greens and browns of your fatigues are a start, but they're never enough. The jungle has its own language, and if you want to survive, you have to learn to speak it. Camouflage isn't about fashion. It's about turning yourself into something the jungle doesn't notice. It's about disappearing, not just from sight, but from sound, from smell, from every sense an enemy might use against you. Out here, concealment isn't optional, it's survival. The first thing you do is cover yourself in mud. Thick, wet, clinging mud that cakes your skin and soaks into your clothes. It feels disgusting at first, cold and slimy, creeping into the creases of your elbows, the back of your knees, the folds of your neck. It never dries fully. It stays damp, heavy, a second skin that smells like rot. But it dulls the shine of sweat. It breaks up the pale colour of your skin, and it turns you into part of the ground. When you smear it across your face, you feel the grit between your teeth. Taste the earth when you lick your lips by accident. But once you're coated, you know you're hard to see. The jungle doesn't mind the mud. The jungle is made of it. Leaves and branches come next. You tuck them into your helmet, tie them to your gear, weave them into the straps of your pack. Fresh leaves match the surrounding foliage, but they wither fast in the heat, curling and browning until they betray you. So you replace them often, plucking new ones as you move, constantly adjusting your disguise. Vines drape across your shoulders, long grass sticks out from your helmet, bark gets smeared across your rifle stock. The idea is to break your outline. A man is obvious. A man covered in bits of jungle is harder to see. The insects don't care about your camouflage. They burrow into the mud on your skin, crawl under the leaves, bite through the fabric. Ants find their way down your collar. Wasps hover around your face. Mosquitoes ignore every chemical you rub on your skin. You swat when you can, but when you're concealed, you don't have that luxury. You lie still, feeling them crawl, feeling them bite, resisting the urge to scratch. Sometimes you can't resist, and you move just enough to swipe one away. And every time you do, you wonder if that tiny motion just gave you away. Concealment isn't just what you wear, it's how you move, or rather, how you don't. You learn to become part of the ground. You crawl on your belly, dragging yourself forward inch by inch, mud smeared across your chest, leaves tangled in your gear. Your elbows sink into the muck. Your knees bruise on rocks. Your hands blister from pulling yourself forward. You freeze when you need to, body pressed flat against the earth, heart hammering so loud you're sure it can be heard. You stay still for minutes, sometimes hours, until the cramp in your leg becomes agony, until your back feels like it's snapping, until your arms go numb. Stillness is harder than crawling. Stillness makes every insect bite a torment, every bead of sweat feel like a river. But stillness is what keeps you alive. Your rifle gets the same treatment as you. You wrap it in cloth to dull the shine of the barrel, smear it with mud, tie leaves to the sling. The scope reflects light if you're not careful, so you cover it with tape, shade it with your hand, anything to keep it dark. One flash of sunlight from your scope, and you've announced yourself to anyone watching. The rifle isn't just a weapon. It's part of your camouflage, and you tend to it with the same obsessive care you give your body. Sound is part of concealment too. You control every noise you make, from the crunch of your boots to the click of your rifle's safety. You move slowly, testing each step, each shift of weight. You avoid snapping branches, rustling leaves, anything that breaks the rhythm of the jungle. You even control your breathing, shallow and quiet, so it doesn't give you away. Out here the jungle is loud, but human sounds are different. They stand out. One cough, one sneeze, one careless scrape of metal, and you've lost your advantage. Smell matters more than you'd think. Cigarette smoke lingers in the air, sweat carries on the breeze, even canned rations leave a trace. You cut back on anything that leaves a scent. No smoking, no strong food, nothing that could drift and betray your position. You can't stop sweating, but you can smear yourself with more mud, masking the smell as best you can. It doesn't always work, but it's better than nothing. The hardest part of camouflage is mental. You don't just cover yourself in mud and leaves. You become mud and leaves. You convince yourself you're part of the ground, part of the trees, part of the shadows. You lie in a position for so long that your body stops feeling human. You're just another shape in the jungle waiting. Your mind fights against it, begging you to move, to stretch, to scratch the itch that's driving you insane. You resist because you know movement means exposure. Exposure means being seen. Being seen means dying. Camouflage and concealment aren't glamorous. They're not tricks or costumes. They're misery, discomfort, and endurance. You bury yourself in mud that stinks. Wrap yourself in leaves that rot. Lie still while insects crawl across your face and into your clothes. You fight every instinct your body has just to stay motionless. You stop being a man and start being a lump of jungle with a rifle hidden inside it. And if you do it right, the jungle forgets you're there. That's the goal. To be forgotten until the exact second you choose not to be. You don't get a warning for the first shot. There's no pause where you think to yourself, this is the one. It comes after hours of waiting, after sweat has soaked through your uniform, after your arms and legs have gone numb from holding still. You've been staring through your scope for so long that the jungle has started to blur, every branch and leaf blending together until you're not sure what's real. And then something shifts. A figure moves where it shouldn't. The pattern of the foliage breaks, and your training kicks in before your mind catches up. Your heart pounds instantly. It's not just beating, it's hammering in your chest, thudding so hard you think it's loud enough for someone else to hear. Your breathing changes. You try to slow it down, try to steady it, but your lungs feel shallow, ragged. Your hands tighten on the rifle stock. Knuckles white, sweat slicking your palms. Every nerve in your body is screaming at once. You've drilled for this. You've trained for this. But nothing prepares you for the moment when it's no longer practice. You line up the shot. The crosshairs settle on the figure, moving slowly, almost casually, through the green haze. Time doesn't slow the way people say it does in movies. Time speeds up. The moment feels like it's rushing past you, and you're scrambling to catch it. You adjust your breathing, force yourself to inhale, then hold it. The scope trembles with every heartbeat, bouncing the target in and out of your sights. You adjust again, cheek pressed so hard against the stock that it hurts, and then you squeeze the trigger. Not pull squeeze, just like you've been taught. The shot cracks, sharp and violent, shattering the hum of the jungle. Your shoulder takes the recoil, slamming into bone, a familiar kick but magnified by adrenaline. The figure jerks, falls, disappears into the brush. The sound echoes for a second, then it's gone, swallowed by the jungle's endless noise. The silence afterward is worse than the shot itself. The jungle doesn't stop humming, but it feels like it does. Every chirp, every croak, every rustle seems muted, distant. You wait for something to happen. For someone to shout, for gunfire to return, for chaos to erupt. But sometimes nothing comes. Sometimes it's just you, lying in the mud, staring through your scope at the place where a man just fell, your body shaking with the aftershock. The adrenaline doesn't fade quickly. It pulses through you, making your hands tremble, your teeth chatter, even though the air is hot and heavy. Your stomach twists, your mouth goes dry, and you realise you haven't blinked in what feels like minutes. You blink hard, once, twice, forcing your eyes to reset. The world feels sharper now, edges cutting into your vision, colours too bright. You scan again, waiting for movement, for retaliation, for proof that the shot wasn't the end but the beginning. Then comes the wait. You don't talk about it out loud, not with the men beside you, but you feel it settle on your chest. You know what that shot meant. It wasn't practice. It wasn't paper targets. It wasn't a drill sergeant shouting at you. That was a man. You don't know his name, you don't know his story, but you know you ended it. Some guys shove that thought away immediately. They joke, they spit, they call it just another notch. Others feel it gnawing at them, quiet and sharp, every time they close their eyes. You don't get to choose how it hits you. You just feel it, one way or another. The aftermath isn't always quiet. Sometimes the shot, sparks return fire. Bullets whip through the leaves. Branches splinter. Dirt kicks up around you. You press yourself lower into the mud. Heart racing faster. Adrenaline spiking again. You chamber another round. Line up another shot and wait. The jungle erupts in flashes and noise. Then just as quickly it stops. Smoke drifts through the air, gunpowder mixes with the smell of wet earth, and your ears ring from the crack of rifles. You wait again, body trembling, trying to decide if it's over. No one congratulates you. No one pats you on the back. It's just another task done, another step forward. You clean your rifle, you wipe down the scope, you reload. The mud clings thicker, the sweat stings sharper, and the insects return like nothing happened. The jungle doesn't care what you just did. It hums the same, breathes the same, presses against you the same. The first shot stays with you. It lingers in your muscles, in your heartbeat, in your memory. Every shot after feels different, maybe easier, maybe harder, but never the same as the first. That one marks you, whether you admit it or not. It reminds you that this isn't just waiting in the heat, or crawling through mud, or enduring bites and blisters. It's war. And now you've stepped fully into it, with all the weight that comes along. You can wait for hours in the jungle without hearing anything more threatening than a bird or the constant whine of mosquitoes. The stillness becomes normal. The weight of sweat dripping into your collar, the buzz of insects circling your ears, the ache in your arms from holding the rifle. They all fade into a background hum you barely register anymore. It almost feels safe, but that's the trick. The jungle lets you get comfortable just long enough to remind you it isn't. Return fire doesn't start with warning. It doesn't build gradually. It arrives all at once. A sudden eruption that feels like the air itself has shattered. 1 second you're lying still, scanning through your scope, squinting at the endless green. The next, the jungle around you cracks open with gunfire. The sound is deafening. It isn't clean or organised, not single shots spaced apart, but bursts, dozens, then hundreds of rounds ripping through branches, tearing leaves, snapping trunks. Silence doesn't break here. It explodes. The first instinct is to flatten yourself against the earth, pressing your body so low you wish you could sink into the mud completely. Dirt kicks up around you. Splinters rain down from shredded trees. Leaves flutter in the air like confetti from some twisted celebration. Your ears ring, your chest hammers, your lungs squeeze tight. You keep your head down, because raising it could mean catching a bullet you never see. You taste gunpowder in the back of your throat, metallic and sharp, mixing with the sweat already dripping into your mouth. You hear shouting too. Sometimes it's English. Orders barked in sharp bursts, men yelling to each other, voices straining to be heard over the chaos. Sometimes it's not English, and that cuts deeper, reminding you that the jungle doesn't belong to you, that you're the one who's out of place here. Those sounds twist together until you can't tell who's shouting what, just a raw chorus of panic and command layered on top of the gunfire. If you're lucky, you remember to breathe. If not, you realise after a few seconds that your chest is locked, your lungs tight, and you have to force air back into your body. The rifle feels heavier now, not comforting but clumsy. You dig your elbows into the dirt, adjust your cheek against the stock, and scan for targets. But the jungle hides everything. You catch flashes of movement, shadows darting between trees, the faint glint of metal. You fire when you think you see something, and you hope it's not just leaves moving in the wind. The sound is overwhelming. Each shot you fire is swallowed instantly by the noise around you. Your ears buzz, a constant ringing that makes it hard to tell where anything is coming from. Bullets cut the air close, a snap and a hiss that makes you duck even lower. The ground shakes with grenades, chunks of mud and leaves raining down on your helmet. You grit your teeth and hold tighter to the rifle, because it's the only thing keeping you focused, the only thing that feels like control. The world shrinks to seconds. You stop thinking about the day, the mission, even survival. You think about the next shot, the next breath, the next movement. You fire, reload, fire again. You pull the bolt back, push it forward, squeeze the trigger, over and over, hands working on autopilot even as they tremble. Sweat runs into your eyes, blurring your vision, but you don't dare wipe it away. Your focus has to stay on the sight picture, on the next flicker of movement, on the chance to take pressure off the men beside you. Then, just as suddenly as it started, it can stop. The bursts fade. The shouting dies down. The jungle goes quiet again, though quiet doesn't mean peace anymore. Your ears are still ringing, so the silence feels distorted, muffled, like you're underwater. Smoke drifts between the trees, stinging your eyes, coating your tongue with its bitterness. The smell of burned powder and hot metal hangs heavy, layered on top of the ever-present rot and humidity. You keep your cheek pressed against the stock, eyes still scanning, because you don't trust the quiet. The jungle is cruel like that. It slams shut like a door, leaving you second-guessing whether it's over or just beginning again. You wait, body tense, muscles shaking from adrenaline, until your brain finally catches up and tells you to lower your rifle. Your hands ache, your jaw throbs from clenching, and your chest feels hollow. You wipe sweat and grime from your face, blink hard, and realize how badly you're trembling. Return fire is never clean. It doesn't feel like a duel, or a contest, or any of the ways people describe it in books or films. It feels like chaos, like the earth itself has turned against you. You don't remember how many shots you fired, or if they hit anything. You don't even know how long it lasted. Minutes feel like hours. Hours feel like seconds. What you do know is that the jungle swallowed the noise and gave you silence back. Silence you no longer trust. You lie there afterward, rifle across your arms, eyes wide, breath shaky, waiting for the next explosion to come. Because out here, it always does. You don't see the enemy in Vietnam the way you expect. There's no neat line of uniforms across a field, no clear front, no moment where both sides stare each other down before the fight begins. Out here, the enemy is everywhere and nowhere, blended into the jungle so completely that you start to doubt your own eyes. You stare through the scope, through the haze, through the endless green, and you don't see a man until he wants you to. And by then, it might already be too late. The Viet Cong didn't move like soldiers you'd trained against. They didn't need heavy equipment or trucks. They carried rifles, ammunition, maybe a satchel charge, and they slipped through the jungle like it was built for them. And it was. They knew every trail, every stream, every rise and hollow. Where you saw a wall of tangled brush, they saw a path. Where you saw cover, they saw a trap. You marched through, weighed down by packs and boots and sweat, while they moved silent and barefoot, skin painted with the same mud that covered the trees. You were foreign here. They were home. Guerrilla tactics weren't just a phrase in a briefing. They were daily reality. Booby traps hid in the ground, under leaves, in the very places you wanted to step for cover. A tripwire strung low could detonate a grenade, or trigger a bamboo stake trap, or set off a claymore they'd taken from a raid. Sometimes the traps were designed to kill. Sometimes they were designed just to wound, because one wounded man slowed down a whole unit. You learned to scan the ground as much as the trees, every step a question, every root or vine suspicious. Ambushes came without warning. One moment you were marching, sweating, swatting mosquitoes, thinking about how long until the next break. The next, the jungle exploded around you. Gunfire from both sides, from angles you couldn't pinpoint. Shadows moved in the brush, but by the time you turned, they were gone. You fired where you thought they were, but the jungle swallowed them up, again. They didn't stay to fight pitched battles. They hit fast, hard, and then melted back into the green before you could adjust. You were left firing at trees, ears ringing, eyes darting, heart racing, waiting for a second wave that might not come. The worst part was the paranoia. You never stopped scanning, never stopped wondering. Every farmer in a nearby village might be friendly, or he might be feeding information to the Viet Cong. Every child who waved as you passed might have been told to watch you. The man hacking at a tree might just be clearing wood, or he might be setting up an ambush for later. The line between civilian and enemy blurred until you didn't trust anyone. You felt eyes on you constantly, but you could never prove they were there. At night, the fear grew worse. The jungle was alive with noise, every snap of a branch magnified in the darkness. You couldn't see more than a few feet ahead, and that meant they could be 10 yards away, watching, waiting, and you'd never know. Flares lit the night sky occasionally, washing the world in pale light, but the shadows rushed back the moment it burned out. You lay in your hammock or in a foxhole, gripping your rifle, staring into blackness until your eyes burned, waiting for movement you couldn't see. As a sniper, you relied on patience, but even that was tested. You could watch a ridge for hours, certain you'd seen movement, only to realise it was branches swaying. Then, just when you let yourself breathe, a shot rang out, precise, deliberate, and someone in your unit went down. One bullet, fired by someone you never saw, and the jungle returned to silence. That's what made it unbearable, the silence afterward. It reminded you that the enemy could vanish, leaving you shaken, scanning harder, shoulders tight, eyes dry from staring. The Viet Cong didn't fight to win every battle. They fought to wear you down, to make you question every step, every sound, every face, to keep you awake at night, staring into shadows until you couldn't tell dream from reality. They wanted you exhausted, paranoid, jumpy, and it worked. By the time you did see them clearly, it almost didn't matter, because you were already beaten down by all the times you didn't. The enemy you can't see becomes bigger in your mind than the one you can. Every shadow is a rifle barrel. Every rustle is a squad moving into position. Every villager's glance hides suspicion. You carry that weight with you every second, and it never leaves. Even when you leave the jungle behind, the feeling that you're being watched follows you. Because for months, for years, you were. You don't look forward to meals in Vietnam. You eat because you have to, not because you want to. Food isn't comfort here. It's just calories stuffed into dented cans, hard crackers, and packets of powder that pretend to be coffee. Hunger follows you everywhere, not always sharp and painful, but steady, nagging, like a weight in your gut that never quite goes away. You open your rations, not with anticipation, but with resignation, already bracing yourself for whatever you're about to choke down. Sea rations are your daily companion. Each one comes in a small cardboard box with a handful of cans and accessories. The cans are stamped with names that sound almost appetizing. Beef with gravy, meatballs, chicken and rice. But you know better. Inside, the contents are greasy lumps of floating in liquid. Meat so processed it's barely meat anymore. Rice that clumps into paste. Beans that taste like sour metal. Some cans are so old they were packed before you were even born. Leftovers pulled from warehouses where they sat for years. You crack one open, smell the sour tang, and debate whether to risk it. Usually, hunger wins. The crackers are legendary in their own way. They don't go stale because they were never fresh to begin with. They're thick, dry, harder than they have any right to be. You bite down and feel the sharp edge scrape your gums. They taste like dust mixed with chalk, leaving your mouth dry, your throat begging for water. You smear them with peanut butter if you're lucky enough to have a can, or cheese spread if you're not. The cheese is dense, salty, more like rubber than dairy. It doesn't spread easily, more like clumps into chunks that stick in your teeth. But it makes the crackers edible, and edible is enough. Sometimes the rations come with candy, a small prize buried in the misery. A Tootsie Roll, a chocolate bar, a piece of gum. The candy is often stale, melted or chalky, but you don't care. It's sugar. It's a taste of something normal. Something from home. For a few seconds, you let it sit on your tongue, close your eyes and pretend you're anywhere else. The gum loses its flavour within minutes, but chewing it helps pass the time, helps mask the taste of rations that linger in your mouth long after you've forced them down. Dinner isn't always dinner. Sometimes you don't get to heat anything up. Don't get to sit and eat properly. You tear open a can in the middle of a march, shovel down cold beans with a knife, and keep moving. Other times you skip entirely, running low on supplies, waiting for the next drop. Cigarettes fill the gap when food doesn't. You light one up, draw the smoke into your lungs, and for a moment it eases the hunger. Nicotine dulls the edge, makes you feel less empty, even though you know it's not real nourishment. You share cigarettes, trade them, hoard them. Out here, a single cigarette can feel more valuable than a full meal. The water doesn't help. It comes from your canteen, metallic and bitter from purification tablets. You drink because you need it, not because you want it. It never feels refreshing. It's warm, almost hot from sitting in the sun all day, and it sloshes heavy in your stomach. Sometimes you mix in instant coffee powder just to give it a different taste. Even though the coffee is so bitter, it scrapes your throat raw. Other times, you dump in the little packets of lemonade mix that come with the rations, pretending it's something better than yellow-tinted sugar water. Hunger changes the way you think about food. Back home, you might have been picky. Out here, you eat whatever's in front of you. You scrape cans clean, lick peanut butter off the lid, chew every last bite of cracker no matter how stale. You joke with the others about the worst rations, but the jokes cover the truth. You'd eat any of them if you had to. Hunger doesn't care about taste. It doesn't care about texture. It just waits for you to give in, and you always do. There's no rhythm to meals. Breakfast might be skipped because you had to move out early. Lunch might be nothing but a cracker shoved in your mouth between patrols. Dinner might come at midnight, crouched in the mud, spoon clinking against a can, while you whisper to the guy beside you. Sometimes, when resupply is late, you stretch rations, cutting portions in half, saving one can for tomorrow even though it leaves you hollow tonight. Hunger sharpens your focus, but it also weakens you. Your arms feel heavier, your legs slower, your patience thinner. You learn to crave the smallest things. Real bread, fresh fruit, meat that hasn't been sitting in grease for months. You dream about it. You talk about it with the others in low voices, swapping stories of meals from back home. Burgers, pizza, steak, even something as simple as eggs and toast. You build feasts in your head while chewing on a cracker that tastes like plaster. The hunger makes memory sharper, crueler, because you know there's nothing like that waiting for you here. And so dinner ends the way it always does. An empty can tossed aside, a cracker wrapper stuffed into your pocket, a cigarette stub crushed into the mud. Your stomach isn't satisfied, just quieted. The taste of grease lingers in your mouth, mixed with smoke, mixed with the bitter aftertaste of bad coffee. You sit back, rifle still close, and remind yourself you'll do the same thing tomorrow. Hunger doesn't leave, it just waits for the next ration can. You don't need a bullet to take you down in Vietnam. The jungle has its own arsenal, and it uses it every single day. Illness and injury are as constant as the heat, as inevitable as the mosquitoes. You wake up already damp with sweat, already itching from bites, already stiff from yesterday's march, and before you've even picked up your rifle, the jungle has started working on you. Out here, survival isn't just about avoiding enemy fire. It's about fighting your own body as it slowly gives way to everything this place throws at it. Malaria is the big one. Everyone knows it, everyone fears it, and almost everyone gets it sooner or later. You choke down the bitter little white pills they hand out, anti-malarials that taste like chalk and sit heavy in your stomach, but they don't always stop it. The fever comes in waves, sudden and merciless. One moment you're trudging through mud, rifle heavy in your arms, the next your legs give out, your body shaking as if you've stepped into snow. Your teeth chatter, your skin burns, sweat pours down your back until you're soaked through. You curl into yourself on the ground, shivering under the weight of the sun, too weak to lift your head. The medics do what they can. More pills, water, maybe a blanket if one's dry enough. But malaria doesn't care. It stays, lingers, comes back even after you think it's gone. If it's not malaria, it's dysentery. Dirty water, spoiled food, or just the constant filth of the jungle finds its way inside you. Your stomach cramps, sharp and twisting, sending you doubling over. You feel weak, light-headed, unable to focus on anything but the pain. The runs come next, sudden and uncontrollable. Privacy doesn't exist out here, so you stumble a few feet from the others, squat in the mud, clutching your stomach while your rifle dangles uselessly in your other hand. Dehydration sets in fast, leaving your lips cracked, your head pounding, your body drained. There's no cure, not really. The medics give you salt tablets, water, maybe something to slow it down, but most of the time you just endure it, hoping you don't collapse along the way. The smaller infections are just as relentless. Every cut, every scrape, every blister is a target. You nick your hand on a branch, and by the next day it's swollen, red, hot to the touch. You twist an ankle in the mud, and within hours it's throbbing, the skin stretched tight. The jungle never lets wounds heal. Bandages soak through with sweat, rags stay damp, dirt gets ground into every opening. Boils form on your skin, raw and angry, pus leaking when you press against them. You smell the infection before you see it, a sickly sweet rot that clings to your clothes and skin. You can't keep anything clean long enough to heal. The jungle eats at you slowly, and you feel it every time you look at your hands or feet. The feet, especially, are a battlefield of their own. Trench foot starts as an itch, then swelling, then the skin peeling away in soggy grey strips. Your toes blister, the nails turn black. The pain sharp enough to make every step feel like walking on knives. You change socks when you can, rub your feet raw with rags, dry them over small fires when you get the chance, but it never lasts. The next march puts you right back in the mud, and the cycle starts again. Some guys can barely walk. They limp, stumble, grit their teeth against every step. Others get pulled out entirely, their feet too far gone to save. You look down at your own boots, damp and reeking, and wonder how long you've got before it happens to you. Then there are the bites. Mosquitoes are constant, But they're just the beginning. Leeches latch on without you noticing, swelling fat with your blood until you feel their slimy bodies against your skin. You pull them off, leaving wounds that keep bleeding, small but steady. Ants crawl up your legs, biting until the skin bubbles with welts. Spiders and centipedes hide in boots, in packs, waiting for the chance to sink their fangs into you. Some bites just itch. Others swell until your arm or leg feels like it's been pumped full of fire. You rub at them, scratch them until they bleed, and wonder if the infection will set in by nightfall. The medics do what they can. They carry bandages, morphine, pills for fever, ointments for rashes. But their supplies are limited, and the jungle always demands more than they have. You see them work with what's on hand, wrapping wounds in torn shirts, splinting legs with sticks, boiling water in battered canteen cups to clean cuts. It's not enough, but it's all they can do. You learn to live with pain, to accept that most wounds don't heal here, they just linger. You learn to patch yourself up with tape, cloth, whatever you've got, because waiting for real medicine isn't always an option. Sometimes you see worse. Shrapnel wounds from a grenade, burns from a claymore, a bullet tearing through a shoulder or leg. The medics rush in, hands steady even as the rest of you freeze. They cut away fabric, press bandages into the bleeding, inject morphine into shaking arms. The jungle turns into a crude operating room, blood mixing with mud, screams swallowed by the trees. Evacuation is the only hope, but helicopters can't always get through. Sometimes you watch a man bleed out on the ground while you keep your rifle ready, waiting for an enemy you can't see, knowing there's nothing you can do. Illness and injury aren't dramatic here. They're constant, grinding, a steady erosion of your body day after day. You don't wake up feeling whole. You wake up taking stock of what's failing this time. Is your stomach twisting again? Are your feet swollen? Is the fever back? Did the cut on your hand close overnight? Or is it spreading? Every day something new breaks down. You carry the pain with you, tuck it under your gear, and keep moving because you don't have a choice. The jungle doesn't care that you're sick, or limping, or feverish. It just keeps pressing down, heavy and wet, and you keep putting one foot in front of the other. And sometimes you wonder if the jungle is more dangerous than the enemy itself. A bullet might kill you quick, but the fevers, the infections, the endless slow grind of illness, those wear you down piece by piece until there's hardly anything left to fight with. Night in the jungle isn't rest. It isn't quiet. It isn't relief from the weight of the day. It's just another kind of battle, one that doesn't let you close your eyes for more than a few minutes without making you wonder if you'll open them again. When the sun goes down, the heat doesn't vanish. The air doesn't cool into something gentle. It just shifts, heavy and damp, pressing against your lungs until every breath feels like steam. The sweat on your skin turns clammy, your uniform sticks tighter, and the insects come out in numbers that make the daytime swarms feel like nothing. You try to find a place to settle in, but there is no good place. The ground is soft with mud, riddled with roots, crawling with ants. If you've got a hammock, you string it between two trees, the rope creaking under your weight, the canvas sagging into a wet U-shape that folds your body in half. You lie back, already damp, already itching, already exhausted. And still, sleep doesn't come. Not with the noise, not with the fear, not with the constant crawl of the jungle against your skin. Darkness here isn't like darkness back home. It isn't the soft dim of a bedroom with the glow of a streetlight outside. It's absolute. The canopy above swallows the moon, the stars, everything. When you lie in your hammock and look up, you see nothing. When you hold your hand in front of your face, it disappears. You hear things you can't see, shapes moving in the blackness, branches snapping, leaves rustling, frogs croaking, birds screaming. Every sound feels closer than it is, sharper, more deliberate. The jungle is never silent, and at night it feels like it's whispering directly at you. You grip your rifle across your chest, finger resting near the trigger guard, barrel pointed toward the ground. It never leaves your side, not when you eat, not when you piss, not when you sleep. Especially not when you sleep, because the jungle doesn't honor sleep. You drift off for 10, maybe 15 minutes, before some noise jerks you awake. Heart pounding, eyes wide, scanning the dark for movement. You lie there, ears straining, sweat dripping, waiting for proof of what woke you. Most of the time, it's nothing. Sometimes it isn't. The watch rotation keeps you half awake anyway. You take your shift, staring into blackness, rifle steady, eyes burning from the effort of seeing what isn't there. Every shadow is suspect. Every breeze through the leaves feels like someone moving. You tell yourself to focus, to stay alert, but fatigue creeps in. Your head nods, your eyelids sag, your body betrays you. You snap awake again, breath ragged, certain you almost missed something. The paranoia is constant, sharper at night than at any other time. The insects are relentless. Mosquitoes swarm around your face, buzzing in your ears, biting through your uniform. Ants crawl into your hammock, across your arms, biting until you flinch. Beetles drop from branches overhead, landing on your chest with a thud that jolts you awake in panic. Sometimes it's harmless, sometimes it isn't. A scorpion, a centipede, a snake. Any of them can find their way into your space, and you don't know until you feel it against your skin. You lie as still as you can, telling yourself it's nothing, even as your heart races. The rain is worse at night. A monsoon storm doesn't wait for daylight. The sky splits open, dumping water in sheets, drenching you instantly. Your hammock fills like a basin, the fabric sagging until you're lying in a pool. If you're on the ground, your foxhole turns into a bathtub, water rising until you're sitting waist deep in mud, gear floating beside you. The rain drowns out everything else, so loud you can't hear the man next to you. Can't hear if someone is moving through the trees. You sit soaked, teeth clenched, rifle slick in your hands, waiting for the storm to pass, knowing the jungle could use the noise as cover. Sleep, when it comes, isn't rest, it's fragments. 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there, broken by the need to check your weapon, shift your body, slap away insects. Dreams bleed into waking. You imagine movement in the dark, shapes at the edge of your vision. You wake gasping, sweat cold against your skin, and realise it was only in your head. Or maybe it wasn't. You'll never know for sure. No place feels safe. Not the hammock, not the ground, not the foxhole. You lie awake listening to the jungle breathe, waiting for the moment it exhales in gunfire. You shift, you scratch, you blink into darkness, and you count the hours until the first grey light of dawn seeps through the canopy. Morning isn't comfort, but it means you survived another night. And still, as you pull yourself from the hammock, as you wring out your socks and shake mud from your pack, you know the night will come again. The jungle doesn't sleep, and neither do you. Not really. You just close your eyes and hope. The jungle takes its toll on your body first. Blisters on your feet, rashes under your uniform, the constant weight of sweat and mud dragging you down. But the real damage happens in your head. You can patch up cuts, you can swallow pills for fever, you can even limp on a twisted ankle. But there's nothing you can take for the quiet that eats at you when you're lying still for hours, waiting, listening, with nothing but your own thoughts pressing harder than the heat. Loneliness doesn't announce itself. It creeps in slowly, even when you're surrounded by other men. You share rations with them. You march beside them. You whisper orders back and forth in the dark. But everyone's wrapped up in their own silence, their own discomfort, their own fear. There's no room for real conversation. You don't talk about home because it hurts too much. You don't talk about what you're feeling because no one wants to admit it. So the quiet settles between you, and even in a crowd you feel like you're alone. Fear is constant. It isn't the sharp fear of a sudden ambush, though that comes too. It's the steady kind, the one that lingers in your stomach every waking moment. You walk through the jungle, knowing at any second a tripwire could take off your leg. A sniper you never see could put a bullet through your chest, or a rustle in the leaves could be someone waiting with a rifle pointed at you. You try to ignore it, to push it down, but it's always there, shaping every step, every thought. Your nerves stay wound tight, straining until even a bird call makes you flinch. And then there's the waiting. Hours lying still in the mud, watching the same patch of trees, listening to the same chorus of insects, staring at shadows that never move. The stillness gnaws at you. Your mind drifts, wandering where you don't want it to go. You think about home, about family, about the life you had before this. You picture the food you used to eat, the bed you used to sleep in, the faces you haven't seen in months. Sometimes it's comforting. More often, it's cruel. Because the more vividly you remember, the more you realise how far away it all is. Some men fill the silence with cigarettes, one after another, smoke curling through the damp air. Others hum quietly, or mutter to themselves, or count in their heads just to pass the time. You try tricks too, reciting lines from movies, replaying conversations you had years ago, building whole stories in your head just to keep from drowning in the stillness. But sooner or later, the thoughts circle back to the same place. What if you don't make it out? What if the next ambush, the next fever, the next unlucky step is yours? The jungle isolates you even from the men beside you. You can't admit when you're afraid. You can't tell them how much the silence is eating you alive. You keep your face blank, your words clipped, because everyone else is doing the same. You laugh at bad jokes, you complain about rations, you curse the heat, but you don't say what's really on your mind. No one does. The loneliness doubles because of it. You're never alone, but you've never felt more by yourself. Sleep doesn't help. When you do drift off, the dreams aren't kind. They're filled with noise, with sudden gunfire, with shadows that leap at you from the dark. Sometimes you dream of home, but those are worse. You wake up reaching for something that isn't there, heart heavy, chest tight, before the reality of the jungle presses back in. The hammock, the mud, the smell of mildew and sweat, all of it waiting to remind you this is your life now. The mental toll shows in little ways. You forget what day it is. You lose track of time entirely, measuring life only by patrols and rations. You startle too easily, your head snapping toward every noise, your finger brushing the trigger before you even register what you're pointing at. You chew your nails down to nothing, grind your teeth until your jaw aches. You talk less, smile less, sleep less. The jungle doesn't just drain your body. It strips pieces from your mind, one at a time, until you wonder how much of yourself you'll have left when you finally leave. And yet, you keep moving. You shoulder the rifle, you march in line, you take your turn on watch. Because there isn't another option. You bury the loneliness, bury the fear, bury the endless thoughts clawing at the back of your mind, and you keep going. But even as you do, you know the jungle is winning in ways you can't see. Not with bullets or bombs, but with silence, with waiting, with too much time to think. Male call in the jungle is like seeing a ghost. Most days you don't expect it. Supplies come when they can, when the weather allows, when the helicopters get through without being shot at. Sometimes weeks pass without a single scrap of paper from home. Then one day, out of nowhere, someone passes you an envelope with your name scrawled across it, and for a few minutes, it feels like you've stepped outside of this place. The envelope is always battered. The corners are bent, the paper soft from moisture, the ink smudged from passing through so many hands. But you don't care. You recognise the handwriting immediately. Your mother, your wife, your girlfriend, maybe just a buddy from back home. That's all it takes to remind you there's a world beyond mud, sweat and insects. You stare at the name for a moment before opening it, letting yourself feel that connection before you tear it open with dirty fingers. The words inside are simple. They talk about the weather back home, about who got married, about a new job, about how the neighbour's dog had puppies. None of it matters here, not really, but at the same time it matters more than anything else. Because it's normal. It's ordinary. It's proof that life goes on outside this endless green maze. You read about someone mowing the lawn, and for a moment you can smell cut grass instead of mildew. You hear about a birthday party, and you can almost taste cake instead of canned crackers. You picture faces smiling, streets busy, lights glowing. Things you'd almost forgotten were real. Sometimes the letters bring pictures. Faded snapshots tucked into the fold, glossy and creased from the trip across the ocean. You hold them carefully, as if they might fall apart. You study every detail, the curve of a smile, the blur of a backyard, the way someone's hair falls across their face. You memorize them, tuck them into your pocket, carry them with you until the edges wear down and the images fade. When you're lying awake at night, mosquitoes buzzing in your ears, you pull the photo out again, staring until you can almost believe you're there instead of here. But the letters cut both ways. They remind you of what you're missing. Every detail about home makes the distance feel heavier. A meal you can't taste, a laugh you can't hear, a hand you can't hold. Sometimes the letters mention things they don't mean to. How hard it is without you, how bills are piling up, how the car broke down, how someone you loved is sick. You read those lines over and over, knowing there's nothing you can do, no way to help, no way to be there. You fold the paper back carefully, slip it into your pocket, and carry that helplessness with you on top of everything else. The worst is when the letters stop. Days turn to weeks, and you check again and again, hoping your name is called, but nothing comes. You wonder if they've forgotten, if they've moved on, if the war has stretched so long that you've become distant even in their thoughts. The silence from home is louder than gunfire, sharper than the crack of a rifle. You lie awake at night, staring at the black canopy, wondering why the mail hasn't come. What it means. Writing back is its own challenge. You sit with a piece of paper balanced on your knee, pencil in hand, sweat dripping onto the page. What do you say? You don't write about the bugs, the mud, the fear, the ambushes. You don't want to send those images home. So you write about the weather, about how you're fine, about how you'll be home soon. You lie, in a way, not because you want to, but because you need to protect the people reading. You can't make them carry this with you. You already know how heavy it is, so you keep the letters short, you fold them carefully, seal them in the envelope, hand them over when the chance comes. And then you wait again for the long stretch of silence, for the possibility of another envelope with your name on it. That's the rhythm. Long silence, short bursts of connection, then silence again. It wears on you, but those few minutes of escape are enough to keep you going. A letter isn't just paper. It's a reminder you're still part of a world beyond this one, that your name exists somewhere other than a roster in a muddy camp, that you're more than just another rifle in the jungle. You hold the paper, you fold it back into your pocket, and you carry it like armour. Because sometimes words from home feel stronger than any bulletproof vest. The end doesn't arrive with a clean break. There's no curtain falling, no neat line between one life and the next. When your tour is up, it happens almost quietly. One day you're in the jungle, sweating under the weight of your gear, brushing mosquitoes from your neck, listening for sounds you hope you never hear. The next, you're told you're done. Orders passed down, bags packed, chopper inbound. That's it. The war doesn't end, the jungle doesn't change, the heat doesn't lift. But for you, this part is over. At least on paper. Climbing onto the helicopter feels surreal. The rotors chop the air into thunder, wind whipping leaves and dirt around you. You haul yourself in, pack heavy on your shoulders, rifle clutched even though you don't need it anymore. You sit on the floor, vibration rattling through your bones, staring out as the jungle shrinks below. For the first time in months, maybe a year, you're rising above it instead of crawling through it. The green canopy spreads out like an endless carpet, and you realise how small you always were inside it. A speck swallowed by millions of trees. But relief is tangled with guilt. You look at the men still down there, still sweating, still waiting, still carrying rifles into the maze. You're leaving, but they're not. You tell yourself you've earned it. You've served your time. But the guilt clings anyway. Just like the mud on your boots, just like the sweat in your uniform, you don't celebrate. You just sit, staring at the jungle, wondering how long before it swallows someone else whole. When you land at base, the world feels different. There are showers, real showers, with water that pours over your head instead of falling in sheets from the sky. Soap foams against your skin, washing away months of sweat and grime. For a moment, you almost feel human again. Clean clothes wait for you, crisp and dry, not stiff with salt or heavy with mildew. You put them on and they feel foreign, almost wrong. You've grown used to damp cloth, to boots that never dry, to straps digging into your shoulders. Comfort feels strange now, like something borrowed. Food tastes different too. Real food, hot food, not canned grease or stale crackers. You chew slowly, savouring every bite, but the hunger is different now. You're not eating for survival. You're eating for taste. And it feels almost overwhelming. For months, food was fuel, nothing more. Now it's flavour, and your body doesn't quite know what to do with it. You eat until your stomach aches, but even then, you can't shake the memory of tin cans and powdered coffee. When the flight home comes, it feels like stepping into another world entirely. The plane hums steady, the seats cushioned, the air cool and dry. You close your eyes, and for the first time in months, you're not listening for branches snapping or whispers in the dark. You let yourself drift, but the sleep isn't clean. Dreams drag you back into the jungle, into the mud, into the shadows where you spent so long waiting. You wake with a start, heart racing, hand reaching for a rifle that isn't there. The man next to you pretends not to notice. He's been doing the same thing. Home isn't what you remembered. Streets are quiet, lawns trimmed, lights glowing in windows. People laugh in restaurants, complain about the weather, talk about television shows. None of it feels real. You stand in the middle of it, clean clothes on your back, food in your stomach, and you feel more out of place than you did in the jungle. Because the jungle at least made sense in its own way. Home feels too calm, too distant, too untouched by what you just lived through. The people you love hug you, smile at you, tell you they're glad you're back. And you are glad. But there's a wall between you now. They ask what it was like, and you don't know how to answer. You don't want to tell them about the mud, the insects, the fear, the way the silence could drive you mad. You don't want to tell them about the first time you pulled the trigger, about the sound of return fire, about the face of the enemy you never saw. So you just say it was hard. You say you're glad to be home. You say you don't want to talk about it. But the truth is, you never really left. The jungle follows you. It's in the itch of your skin when you lie in bed at night, waiting for mosquitoes that aren't there. It's in the way you flinch at sudden noises, heart pounding as if gunfire might erupt at any second. It's in the way you lie awake, staring at the ceiling, remembering the darkness, the sounds, the weight of the rifle across your chest. The war ends on paper. It ends for everyone else. But for you, it keeps running, quiet and endless, like the hum of the jungle at night. The end of a tour isn't an end at all. It's just a change of scenery. The mud stays with you. The heat stays with you. The silence stays with you. You leave the jungle behind, but it doesn't leave you. It lingers, woven into your skin, buried in your mind, a constant reminder of where you've been. And even years later, when the world has moved on, when the jungle is thousands of miles away, you'll still feel it waiting, just beneath the surface, always waiting. You've reached the end, but it doesn't feel like an ending. Just as the jungle never allowed a clear line between night and day, between safety and danger, between rest and exhaustion, there's no clean break here either. What you've heard are fragments of a life lived in heat and mud, under a canopy that never stopped pressing down. A life defined by waiting, watching, moving carefully where nothing was ever quiet, eating meals that weren't meals, and holding tight to a rifle that became more familiar than your own reflection. For the men who walked those trails, who lay still in the dirt with insects crawling into their sleeves, who drank bitter coffee from a dented tin and chewed stale crackers until their jaws ached, there was never really a return to normal. The jungle left marks that didn't fade. Some carried them in their bodies, scars from shrapnel, lungs damaged by fever, feet ruined by weeks in damp boots. Others carried them deeper, the silence of nights broken only by distant gunfire, The memory of eyes watching from shadows that never showed themselves. The weight of knowing you survived where someone else didn't. When their tours ended, they stepped onto planes. They went home. They sat down at tables with clean plates and familiar faces. But the jungle followed. It stayed in the way they flinched at sudden noises, in the way they woke drenched in sweat, in the way they struggled to find words when someone asked what it was like. It stayed in the background, quiet but never gone, humming like the insects at night, pressing like the heat that never lifted. So when you think of a sniper in Vietnam, don't imagine just the moment of the shot, the precision, the single bullet finding its mark. Imagine the days of sweat and fever, the nights of listening to sounds in the dark, the endless fight against hunger, insects, and the mind itself. Imagine the silence before the shot, and the silence after, heavier than the noise in between. And understand that for many, the jungle was never left behind. It lives on in memory, in dreams, in the space between heartbeats when the world is too quiet. That's what it was really like. And that's why leaving it was never as simple as stepping onto a helicopter and flying away.